This video is about the Democratic Republic of Congo. We are going to paint a picture of why Congo is the way it is. A third world country with mountains of resources, but the lives of its people never seem to get better. We are trying to understand why people living in an abundance of resources never see any positive transformation, especially over the past few centuries. So let's get into it. To understand this story about the Congo, context is everything. So before we get into it, we must understand where they are coming from. Pre-colonial Congo. Before the arrival of the Europeans on the shores of Central Africa, there were scores of ethnic groups, tribes and clans that shared the large area of Central Africa. The borders you see today in Central Africa were carved by Europeans as a show of their dominance. Notably, during the Berlin Conference, where Africans who were thousands of miles away had no representation, even though the conference was about them. After all, who cared what the savages think? That might have been one of the guiding principles to it. The Pygmies, the Kingdom of Congo, the Kingdom of Bataki, Luba and Lunda Empire are key civilizations in Central Africa. These civilizations existed before even the scramble of Africa. Remnants of them were still there when the Europeans arrived. They were very organized and sophisticated societies with strong institutions and social structures. They had great architecture, technology, and educational systems too. The economies were predominantly agri-based, which was also backed by well-defined economic and government structures. Even today, the culture of Congo, even though Congo is very diverse, you still see influences of the way of lives of these past civilizations in what they do now. So let's establish the fact that these people were not savages, barbarians or spawn of the devil before the Europeans arrived. This was just propaganda that drove the scramble for Africa and the inhumane treatment that followed. Even European explorers attest to the fact that the societies and kingdoms had sophisticated cultures, which even amazed them. But this did not matter to the European elite, who just saw an abundance of wealth and also made the realization that they had the military power to take it. And so they did. The arrival of the Europeans marked the genesis of this tragic tale. This is where the true tragedy began. The Portuguese were the first to arrive on the shores of Central Africa in the 15th century. This opened the door to trade, which as usual was followed by colonization. The classic African colonization story. It was like a template that was handed out all over Europe that step 1, you make friends with them. Step 2, you trade with them. Step 3, you colonize and sell their children. Trade in the coastal areas of Central Africa continued for centuries post-Portuguese arrival in the area. Significant part of this was this transatlantic slave trade. Remember, not all the slaves were sourced from West Africa alone. A significant number of them were taken from Central Africa. After the Berlin Conference, Belgium and France carved parts of Central Africa that make up the Democratic Republic of Congo today and also Congo-Brazzaville. The Belgian part of the Congo, which was called Congo Free State, was recognized as the personal property of King Leopold II. Let me repeat it. It was recognized as the property of King Leopold and not a colony of Belgium. And for a Congo Free State, there was no freedom for its residents. In fact, the free meant it was freely obtained by Leopold, and he was free to do whatever he wanted there. And so, he ravaged it. This guy gave Hitler a run for his money. Even some historians think Leopold is the worst of the two. Just look throughout history. The most heinous, diabolical, straight up evil thing you can think of. You name it and he did it. Slavery, forced labor, torture, genocide, All forms of abuse from sexual to psychological was a daily occurrence in his territory. Millions died and millions more were mutilated and scarred for life. Decades into his evil regime in the area, word got out about the evil things he did there, even though he did a very good propaganda job to make it look like he was helping, in quote marks, the savages become civilized, when he was actually exposing them to the level of savagery even the savages didn't think existed. So, to cover Belgium from national shame, the government annexed the territory, and you would think that would have been the end of the suffering of the people of Congo. No, it didn't. It just took the high exploitation to the next level. The state of Belgium industrialized the high exploitation of the Congo. Finally, in the 1960s, the Congo gained independence after decades of nationalist movement. I almost even forgot about the French part of the Congo, which was called Middle Congo. They were also exploited. This was the colonial time, so it's unsurprising. The only thing I would like you to know that coincidentally they also gained their independence in 1960, just like the DRC did. It is now called Congo Brazzaville, and they are still neighbors with the Democratic Republic of Congo. When the Democratic Republic of Congo was gaining independence, King Baudouin, the then King of Belgium, attended the ceremony and gave a very terrible speech. In this speech, he was praising colonization and even trying to make his predecessor, King Leopold, look like a genius, right in front of his victims, which looked really weird.
Du Congo constitue l'aboutissement de l'œuvre conçue par le génie du roi Léopold II, entreprise par lui avec un courage tenace et continuée avec persévérance par la Belgique.
But it did not end there. Patrice Lumumba responded to these claims he was making in his speech.
Combattant de l'indépendance, aujourd'hui victorieux, je vous salue au nom du gouvernement congolais. À vous tous, mes amis, qui avez lutté sans relâche à nos côtés, je vous demande de faire de ce 30 juillet 1960 une date illustre que vous garderez ineffaçablement gravée dans vos cœurs, une date dont vous enseignerez avec fierté la signification à vos enfants, pour que ceux-ci, à leur tour, fassent connaître à leurs fils et à leurs petits-fils l'histoire glorieuse de notre lutte pour la liberté.
Many people believe that his response to King Baudouin put a target on his back, resulting in his death. But I believe his crime was not responding to the king, but intending to nationalize the natural resources of the Congo as the first head of state post-colonization, to gain resources to transform their lives and the huge population and territory that was handed over to his administration by the colonial government. And for this crime, they took his life. True freedom for the Congolese were shortly lived. There was constant external interference from the West, presence of foreign military, and finally, a regime change. The CIA and Belgium assassinated the first head of state of Congo, Patrice Lumumba, for the crime of not being pro-West, which simply means not opening the doors of exploitation for Western governments and corporations for minimal compensation, and also daring to care for the lives of the citizens who gave him power. And as usual, the traitors within sold the future of the nation for their fantasies. Remember, even though the CIA and Belgium were behind the push for his death, those who actually put him to the axe were his own people. Thomas Sankara was right. Imperialism is not just an external force. It often finds accomplices among the very people it exploits. And truly, the enemies of Congo would not be so strong if they not had people among them supporting them to exploit them. The traitor Mobutu Sese Seko became the face of the regime change, and after years of civil war, he became the next head of state in 1965. Then he opened the doors of exploitation, like the middle manager of neo-colonialism he is. And for this, he was supported by the US and Europe to have his fantasy of being a supreme leader, exploring a sense of fashion and gallivanting across Europe from the White House through the royal courts of Europe and to Israel. He was everywhere. He lived in absolute luxury while his people suffered a few meters from his door. He ruled with an iron hand, repressed them, and snapped out dissent with violence. Just like a classic Western pawn, he gained power through lies and propaganda, and when he was finally exposed, he ruled with violence while living on the suffering of his countrymen. At a point in time, his net wealth was larger than that of his countries, and he could even pay off their debts with millions of dollars as spare change. Remember, he was no businessman or a genius inventor who invented something into earning billions. He was just a head of state. He was so corrupt that the word kleptocracy was coined for him just to describe the nature of his governance. His reign finally came to an end after 3 decades, which was also believed to have had Western influence because at a point in time the power got to his head. But others believe it was just an internal uprising. Still, the Congo was plunged into civil wars. The Congo Wars, local warlords fighting over territories and ethnically motivated violence for years. And some of these were even still happening during the reign of Mobutu. Today, there are countless armed groups and even factions in the country's military playing warlords and thefts in the eastern part of the country. While all this craziness is going on, the mega corporations from the West continued their exploitation of the environment, and they did not care who it affected. They backed power plays among warlords, paid bribes to government officials, used child labor, and even ethnically cleansed villages and whole towns just to exploit the resources under their feet. Today, some regions of the Congo, abuse of all forms are daily occurrence. When you look at the commentary, the reports coming from the Congo, it's almost like a controlled chaos, and that chaos is good for business. From government officials to local chiefs and warlords, they play a key role in a multi-billion-dollar industry to create an environment for exploitation where mega corporations can get easy access to resources and they get paid for it. They provide legal cover, little to no regulation, and easy access to resources, cheap or even forced labor. The burden falls on the average Congolese while they live in riches. In some parts of Kinshasa are like playgrounds for the rich and elites of Congo. They are so luxurious that even these elites prefer living there than going outside the country to Europe or even living in Dubai. This paints the portrait of the cosmetic nature of development in the Democratic Republic of Congo. While people live in riches, there are some very nice places for photo ops. There is also high poverty rate, weak security system, terrible health system, undependable public infrastructure, and total environmental devastation. Decades after independence, no transformation, just cosmetic development on the back of megatons of copper, gold, diamonds exploited. The people of Congo has nothing to show for that. And this indeed is the true tragedy. In this video, my focus was more on the Congolese than any other foreign actors because the truth is they don't really care as long as they can really exploit the DRC. I could not also do justice to all the historical events that contribute to this tragic tale, but just mention or summarize them. Some of these events are so important that they deserve videos on their own, like the Congo Wars, the M23 rebellions, and currently the influence of Congo's neighbors in their political affairs and the security of the area. I end this video with hope and faith in the new generation of the Democratic Republic of Congo that they can turn things around and transform their nation. And for the rest of us, we must never stop talking about the Congo.